Hi everybody, I'm here to review Children of the Night by M.A. Bennet, which just off the cuff I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I was so excited when I saw there was a sequel to Young Gothic, which is this. So if you haven't read Young Gothic, maybe hold off before you watch this review. But yeah, I was super stoked when I saw that that was coming out. Even more excited when I was able to grab this sample at Yelp last November, and positively trembling when I saw a copy in at the library. Pretty soon, hot off the heels of it being published. It only took me, admittedly, a rather long time for all the excitement that I talked about just a minute ago for me to finally crack open the book and jump back into the macabre lives of Hal, Griffin, Eve and Ren. I think the hesitation was largely caused by a combination of knowing I was going to love this and sort of overhyping myself, as well as wanting to savour the reward of the story and get into it and finally enjoying it. And a little bit of that was also due to being worried that it wouldn't live up to my love of the predecessor being Young Gothic. I really did talk myself into circles about the littlest things. I am my own worst enemy, but here we are. For those of you that don't really care about reading the prior book, what have you, let's quickly do a breakthrough of the sort of synopsis of Young Gothic before we talk a little bit about Children of the Night. I want to say I've got a review up for Young Gothic already, but we meet our four main characters, Eve, Griffin, Ren and Hal, who are invited by the Diodati Foundation to spend the summer, so about 3 months or so, at the Villa Diodati, I think it was called, and it's basically a very macabre, dark, gothic kind of retreat where they hope to inspire the new wave of Gothic media, whether that be the form of a new author, a new songwriter, a new play, anything like that. They're hoping to kind of bestow that to the world through this kind of like social experiment, I guess you could say, and writer's retreat. But there is more to it than that, and our four main characters find out some dark sides to themselves that they didn't really know about before, and also how to hone that. Our host at the Diodati Foundation, Skelski, I think is his name, is not what he seems either, and he has so much to announce and teach our young protagonists in this story. Forward into the Children of the Night, we are following again our four characters, and this time they're invited to Transylvania, mainly at the guest of Ren. So Ren was the one that was mainly invited to spend the night in the Dracula castle, and he has 3 guest opportunities, and of course he invites his young Gothic friends. They hope to learn more about their individual strange dispositions and what they can do with those powers. Of course, once again, with that kind of gift of knowledge and the thirst that they all want to learn more, comes attachments, shall we say, and once again, they are in danger of knowing too much, I guess you could say, and putting the town at risk as well. Being set in Transylvania in the lead up to St. Andrew's Night really set this Gothic atmosphere up a notch, and the dark ambience really felt amplified and well utilised against the forestry, the cold, the wintry, snowy backdrop of this small, sometimes hostile village, very closed village. Outsider was very well noted, and that added to this kind of on-edge feel, I think. It's this behemoth of a mysterious castle looming ever present just above the village, and it really did create this perfect Draculorian scene, especially with the cast of characters that we have and who we were introduced to as well, that helped carry the story through. I was in particularly really sad to see that poor Ren was kept away from the main group for so long, and kind of his spiral at trying to figure out what his host wanted from him and kind of figure out his own stuff going on, as well as like relationships that he was having and romantic relationships in particular, and kind of just getting his head around all of this and just being a young person on top of the dangers and the situations that he was in. And it made me feel heartache for him that he was confined in this castle on his own without a way to contact his friends. Hal in particular really started reminding me of Ocaron from Dandadan, if any of you guys have seen it. So the Ocaron evil eye kind of duality, but I think maybe I was just watching too much Dandadan, which honestly I miss my Dandadan Thursdays. If any of you guys have watched that, are you with me in the grief that we no longer have Dandadan Thursdays? Because that was the highlight of my week, I'm not gonna lie. Eve and Clara have me questioning even more, and I think that Griffin seems to have found peace and happiness in himself, and I feel like maybe in terms of a finding a centre, a groundedness as a character, maybe Griffin in that aspect has grown the most out of the 4 so far, which I love to see. There were definitely a few things that I just want to nitpick at within the story that stuck out to me. I mean, other than the times where I noticed that the author may have accidentally switched POVs in a chapter briefly and it just wasn't edited out or corrected. I don't know if that's just me that got confused, but it did feel like at times we suddenly switched perspective and I was like, hold on a minute, we're not in that person's chapter. So that did throw me out of whack in terms of following the story a little bit. But the 3 kind of main plot holey things, I guess you would say, was frustrating for a reader perspective anyway, was the who are you bit with Andreas, who is a character we meet along the way who is quite crucial and very significant, I would say, to the story's progression. I think that this who are you bit kind of dragged on way too much than was needed, especially for my taste, I guess, and it was quite clear, I thought, who his character was from the very in-depth conversations he had with the young Gothics already. So the reveal that we got kind of nearer towards the end of the story wasn't as gut-punching as I think was probably intended. Pretty much as soon as Andreas discussed his like darker family business, it was pretty obvious. So I was confused as to why a lot of the characters were sometimes seeing it too, and other times it was just kind of tiptoeing around the hints. I tell you what it felt like, it without, I know I'm being coy because I don't want to spoil it, but it almost felt like, say you're writing the story and you forget that you've already filled those characters and your reader in that this person is who they are, and so you're continuing on as if everyone's oblivious, but you've already said this, and it just felt like a little bit not as like neatly tied. And I don't know what went on there, but it was confusing because I was like, I swear we've already had this reveal, so why is there such a hoo-ha now? Don't you guys already know this, right? So yeah, I don't know, that bit really threw me. And the other plot development, which I thought was a little bit holy, was regarding Necker, who's also known as the Skeltsy guy, the Skeltsas. I can't remember how to say his name. I can see some of the letters in my head but I can't actually like form the name in my head. I don't want to say too much about this particular part because I do think it will easily spoil a lot of the story if I did, like in very few words. But he blatantly told again and showed Ren in particular something, and Ren still kept on going with the notion that something else was true and his own belief. I know, again, I'm being really coy, it's kind of a similar thing as the Andreas thing, but it just didn't make much sense and it left me scratching my head in confusion. Again, if you've read this book, do let me know if you know what I'm trying to like allude to. I also do think that Hal and Eve, this is more sensitive, needed a deeper conversation after a particular event between the two of them, because that shit must have been traumatic, and Eve was like way too chill about it. Like she seemed like she really internalized it and was fine, but I don't know if it's going to crop up in another book, more of a detailed conversation. But after what she'd gone through, that experience that I'm referring to surely must have put her in a dark space. And for Hal as well, I'm probably going to guess, but I'm not going to outright say it, not being in control of your body and having this darkness live inside of you, and like knowing something bad's happened and you can't remember it, but you know you've hurt someone that you care about, like that must be awful and eating and tearing him up inside as well. And I just don't feel like they talked about it deep enough to resolve the issue and move forward. I would have had a lot of questions and hesitancy about being around that person had I been in either of their shoes. But overall, I've got to say, outside of the above, which I found a little bit plot holey, a little bit confusing for a reader, I did adore this story and had such a great time being back in this world of young Gothics. I think we're going to get a third one. I hope we get a third one maybe next summer. I think that's kind of when they're releasing, and I really look forward to that if that is the case. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Do let me know what you thought of this series so far. Yeah, I'd love to know. Thank you very much again for watching, and I'll catch you in another video soon.